Hello and welcome to the 444 podcast, where we are for truth, for faith, and for you. And I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Perry, and I'm glad to be joined by several young folks tonight. We're going to be talking about the Iraq War. And let me just run down who is here with us and is going to be talking to you tonight. So, right to my left, to the right for you, we have the confident and articulate Cyrus Ariani.
See if that's true.
We'll see if that's true. Okay. From the great state of North Carolina, we have the demure debutante, Hope Ariani.
Hi there.
And then to the far side of the table, the mental maestro, also from North Carolina, Sarah Beth Gossett.
Hello.
All right. And then remotely, we have one guest we'll be bringing in from New Jersey, Zechariah Gill. And he's our stoic sage. Say hello, Zechariah.
Hello.
And that's all we get. Okay. So to keep us on track tonight, Mackenzie McKay is going to be running our video information, and I may end up having to have her holler at us too. So, you may hear her join in, but you won't have her on camera. But we're going to go ahead and start by looking at some videos. Now, I guess before we start playing anything, we have our podcast once a week. Last week, there was no war. As we start this week, we have engaged in conflict with the country of Iran, joined by Israel in that, and now actually some of the Gulf states also participating, I guess, and it's kind of blossomed a little bit. As young college students, I don't know, how's this been? Has it been something that around campus people talk about a lot? Has it become the major focus?
Yeah, I would say so. Especially people of drafting age have thrown around a lot of comments about if there's a draft or not. So it's definitely something that young people are thinking about.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said I would join the Air Force before any draft came around. That'd be my favorite branch.
Okay. An Air Force guy. I think I'd want to be in the Space Force personally.
Oh,
but,
well, I didn't even think about that.
Okay. I don't know how they're going to reach me in space, right? I have to say about that.
Not
What
a
about you, Zechariah? Is this something that in New Jersey you're hearing a lot of talk about the war? Is that the main subject?
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about it and stuff like that. And I also had an opportunity to go to a campus near my home, talk to some people, and yeah, I got some opinions from there as well.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it is a big deal. And frankly, when I was your age, we had a war start, and I remember thinking the same thing, like, will there be a draft? And I had a friend that was graduated from the military. He'd been in the military, gotten out, and I remember talking to him about it. And oh, you don't have to worry about it. You're already, I don't know what I was, 25, I don't know, 24. He's like, you're so old, they'll never draft you. So
When did 25 become old?
I know.
Yeah.
It's not these days. For me, I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that. All right. Well, to get things on the road, the White House they've gamified, shall we say, this a little bit. They've got a cartoon version to talk about the war. I think we should play one of these clips because this is something we need to discuss.
You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again? You want to see me do it again?
Okay, I think the answer is no. I think we've got enough of that.
I got the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
Okay. SpongeBob. Did you guys grow up on SpongeBob?
No,
Actually, no.
But I understand the cultural phenomenon that he is, right? So
Yeah.
to put him, as the person calling in the bombs was definitely a decision.
Yeah, seems to be a lack of professionalism with the posts of the White House over
Okay.
Trump's entire term, ever since he got elected for the second time. But I guess it's a strategy to engage the younger audience.
Yeah.
Like, do we want that?
I
No.
no, I think no.
I mean, if you think about Vietnam, right? I mean, a lot of historians could say, what did we do wrong with our own populace in Vietnam? And it was not getting the young people on board with the war. So maybe the Trump administration are looking back at history and saying, we need to try something that's going to get people behind what we're doing.
Okay.
And I don't know what I think about how they're doing it or if it's even working,
What do you think,
I
Hope?
think it's interesting because even without the war, that's been the social media strategy of the White House the entire time President Trump has been in office. It's that whoever's doing their social media is very intent on making it lighthearted and kind of comedic, all the stuff that's being posted from the White House, even the things that aren't about the war. So
Mhm.
it seems like a general social media strategy, not necessarily focused on only the war, but it's definitely showing up here.
Yeah. There's been a lot of research in the past. It's not recent research because it was kind of a settled issue that cartoon humor, cartoon violence, I should say. So you have cartoons that are humorous and then they put violence in them, and there's been a lot of research that's looked at what is the effect of that on children, and kind of been concerned that it trivializes things that can be very serious issues. So, is this trivializing the war? I mean, let's acknowledge that in those shots, there's no people being blown up. They're blowing up drones and rocket launchers, probably. But is this, how should children understand that if they see this?
I mean, as a lot we've said before, it's gamifying it. Like the footage that you see, it could be from the real world, but the way it's presented, it could be just from a game. It could just be from one of our ultra realistic combat first person shooter games that exist, which have the most realistic graphics. And it's hard to tell. And then you look at who posted it, and it's from the White House, and it's presented as actual footage, given the little classified marking at the front. And you're like, wow, we're living in a different era.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Now, this one's maybe a different age group, but has some similar characteristics, I suppose.
We're winning this fight. We've taken control.
Okay, so I wanted to get up and dance to it, I suppose, to some degree, right? Like you got this very energetic music, but I think there's a lot more than that going on here. And we're going to turn to Zachariah because he seems to identify exactly what the White House is pulling from for this video. Tell us more about that, Zachariah.
All right, yeah. So first off, in Call of Duty, there's these things called score streaks that you call, and then it just helps you out in the game, right? The video that they used is of one that you can only get after you get like 30 kills. And when you call in this specific score streak, it's called the mass guided bombs, you win the game automatically. So like the game's already won the second you call it. And I feel like that's kind of like a peek into I guess America's like worldview, I guess, that they kind of to them the battle is already won. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Okay, so kind of a subtle subliminal messaging, maybe. Um, are they right? I guess maybe would be one question. From all that's happened in the first 6 days of the war, do we think the battle's already won? Does that make sense?
I mean, it depends, I guess, what defines the battle. I mean, we've definitely taken out a lot of their defenses, a lot of their missile silos. We've definitely maimed their capabilities. But it depends what we're trying to achieve. Are we trying to achieve just, getting rid of their nuclear weapons? I think we've done a decent job of that. I don't think Iran can build a nuclear weapon super fast anymore. But they still have a lot of weapons in caves. They still have a lot of rebels hiding in different areas. And a lot of their leadership still exists. So do we want to get rid of their leadership? Would that mean that the battle was won? I think we're a little far off from that point, but
All
it
right.
depends what the objective is.
What do you think, Sarah Beth?
I mean, I think it's just kind of concerning that they're portraying it in a video game format, because it just kind of makes war lighthearted, and I don't think that's really a good approach. Obviously, they're trying to appeal again to the younger generation, but it's very concerning. And when you think about the politicians who are sitting in office and making the calls versus like the people on the ground getting killed, whether there are enemies or not, that offers a different perspective to
Okay.
viewing it in a lighthearted way.
Yeah, and like why would we hearken to maybe our more childish qualities that we tried to kind of train out of ourselves?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
why would we try to take advantage of the fact that many times youth don't have a responsible understanding of the gravity of war?
Yeah.
Is the way to win them over to kind of give them what they want, or to actually, teach them and tell them war is actually a serious thing. It's not just a video game. It's not like Call of Duty. It's
Yeah.
not the same thing. And what we're doing here is we're confirming something that is really disturbing.
Yeah, it kind of seems to go against all of the messaging that President Trump talked about in his State of the Union speech, that he wants negotiations to take precedent. And obviously that did happen and he did negotiate and try those things. But this messaging from the White House seems like it's all about the war and it's all about the violence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a faith perspective, as we are for faith here, when is it okay for us to be involved in a war like this? I think Cyrus asked a good question earlier, like, what's the end game? Like, have we won? Like, what are we really trying to accomplish here? That's one piece of maybe understanding what justifies going to war. What else might fit into that?
I think it's interesting that a lot of people haven't been able to tell what the purpose of this war actually is. I've heard a few people, commentators ask that question. Like they've heard 5 different reasons for going to war. And so some of the reasons that they've said seem to be like good reasons, helping the humanitarian efforts in Iran, or legitimate threats against the United States. Those seem like they may be good reasons to go to war. But then there's other reasons of like defending Israel, and some people have argued that that's not a good reason to go to war. And so it's hard to look at it morally when there's not a clear, direct reason why we're entering into this war.
It's obvious that there's never going to be a set of reasons that everyone will agree on.
That's for sure.
But we have gone out. You guys have gone out, and some of our other folks in our group have gone out and gathered some just opinions from folks. So I think we want to play a couple sets of these. We'll play the first one, and then we can talk about what people are saying about different aspects of the war.
So, do you think President Trump made the right decision by launching the attack on Iran?
Yes, he did. He's the president of the United States of America, and I'm pretty sure that all of his decisions had plenty reasoning behind it. We just need to stand by as citizens and let our president do what he does.
Okay, so do you think the President Trump made the right decision by launching the attack on Iran?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because at that rate, things need to be controlled and managed in such a way as fair for the whole wide world.
Okay. Do you think President Trump made the right decision by launching the attack on Iran?
No,
Why?
because war never helps anything.
Krishna was our interviewee here, or interviewer here, talking to some of these folks. I don't know, what do you think? There's some very different opinions on there.
Yeah, I mean, as usual, the country is divided. I feel like historically, in big major political moments, people are going to have different opinions. But the first opinion was very interesting, just like blindly trusting the president. And then obviously the last opinion was very in opposite to that, very against what President Trump is doing.
Mhm. The older fella in the middle, he's like, what did he say? Something about it should be fair for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
in the world.
Everyone in the world.
Yeah.
Fair outcome for the world.
Fair outcome for the world. Okay. And so it sounded like he was in favor of the war, so he feels like the war will bring that fair outcome. Do you agree with him?
I mean, I feel like I understand and can get behind his rationale more than maybe the other opinions that I heard in the video. His felt pretty well thought out in the sense that he had a goal, right? He had a reason that we would go to war. And his reason was to bring equality or to have even and kind of non-chaotic outcomes throughout the world. And in using his goal or objective for what a war should accomplish, I think he sees that this war does fulfill that goal. The other opinions, they were, either for or against, but they didn't give me like an overarching reason for why they believe that war could be justified in this circumstance. It was just like, yes, I am, or I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think, so is that characteristic of most people? Do you think most people don't really even know how to think about whether this is good or bad? They just are like, my party says yes, or my party says no. Like, do people have good rationale? Are they thinking through this?
I mean, the last lady kind of had a moral opinion in just saying that war is always bad,
Okay.
which would be kind of pacifist, technically, of not thinking that war is ever a good thing because there's destruction and there's killing. So I don't know if she would have continued on to like say that, but even subconsciously, she has that opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think everyone does, like even the first person, I mean, everyone does have maybe a metric that, they have in the back of their mind. They may not articulate it or even recognize it themselves, but if you talk with any person for long enough, you will recognize some type of moral framework.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good. All right, let's go ahead and play another set. We've got some more folks that gave us their opinions.
President Trump made the right decision by launching an attack on Iran at this time?
Absolutely not. They certainly should not have been governing the way that they were, but it's not the role of the U.S. to step in and enact forceful regime change, because who are we to insert someone? We don't know better than the people of that country, and we don't represent their interests.
I'm gonna assume not. Like, personally, I feel there's a lot that's already happening inside the states that, like, having this be like another thing, it feels like it's just like taking away from what's already wrong inside of our country. And like that's not even to say like what is wrong with how we interact with the rest of the world.
I'm gonna say no, because I feel like it's kind of contributing to a wider war. They're already like bombing like U.S. embassies in other countries in the Middle East and stuff. So I think that doing this at this time made Iran aggravated.
Very different opinions from those three interviewees, and they like the first one. It was kind of like we should not be putting our morals on somebody else. Like, let them do what they want. What do you think about that? Let's just start with there. Is that a problem? Is that good? Zechariah, you talked to this particular person. You gathered these particular interviews. Maybe you have some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess I sort of understand what she's saying, but again, like thousands of protesters were literally like killed in Iran just for like, protesting and stuff like that. So I mean, at what point do we just sit back and don't do anything? Like one of the, philosophies of just war is punishing evil. You know what I mean? If you're killing your own citizens just for expressing their opinions, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. And obviously they don't have weapons to fight back with, right? Like I don't think even in this, we have the Second Amendment. We're allowed to have guns. Guns are almost ineffective against what our military would be able to pull.
That's true.
Right? Like if we had a rogue regime that came in and used military force to control the population in the US, I mean, our guns would melt compared to what they would be throwing at us. So I don't even know how that how that would work any country. But sometimes you need a powerful force to step up and help people who are being abused, really, right?
Yeah, I think it's just always hard to know people's true intentions because, like one of the girls said in the interview, we have plenty of issues here in the United States, and the Epstein files just came out, which our
Right.
president is in. So, I mean, I see the perspective. Obviously, everything that's happening in Iran to the citizens under a horrible regime is horrible, but also it's hard to know what are the true intentions of this war on the United States side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to see that line like that second girl was talking about. But it's definitely interesting because this war has seemed to kind of cross party lines in terms of opinions because it's generally a Republican idea that America should be first. But now we hear so many people from the Democratic side saying, well, we should be paying attention to what's here in our homeland right now, like the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are
Yeah.
saying that in Congress, like, oh, we should be
Mhm.
focusing on here, whereas that's not normally a Democrat idea.
Yeah.
I think part of, and the person that Zachariah interviewed didn't really directly address it, but the idea of like the war being somewhat of a distraction,
Yeah.
like the timing of everything is just almost too convenient, you know? I mean,
Interesting.
what were we talking about a few weeks ago, right?
Mhm.
We were talking about both the Epstein files, which Trump is in, and also the ICE fiasco.
Yeah.
Think about it. A couple of weeks ago, every headlining article across every major journal was about this ICE thing. Trump's ICE policies are melting.
Yeah.
It's going south. Now, I haven't heard anyone talk about ICE in a long while.
Not to mention
Um,
the tariffs.
Tariffs,
that
right?
recently.
Wars take up the headlines. And for a
Dude.
president that's somewhat unpopular at home for whatever policy it may be, it's not unprecedented to have wars that obviously, if it's successful, we'll see a president's approval skyrocket. Of course, if the
Right.
war is unsuccessful, maybe we, think of unpopular wars in the past, like Vietnam or other wars, they can obviously have a pretty negative effect. But I think what Trump is hoping for is that this war will be a huge success and his popularity will soar. And also, everyone will ignore what's going on at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there certainly are multiple sides to it.
Yeah.
I think that Trump has some altruistic, philanthropic or altruistic motives here. I don't think he's going in for himself,
Right.
but that's not to say that he's not happy about some of the side effects, right? But just today, so as we're recording this, U.S. forces are also involved in Ecuador, I think it is, to help eliminate some drug lords down there. I guess they've joined Ecuador's, military or police force to try to eliminate some drug cartel figures. And then half of Cuba has no energy, perhaps because we cut off their oil from Venezuela, we've cut off their oil from Iran, and for whatever reason, there's a blackout in half of Cuba. But it may be because they don't have any oil to run their power plants to give the people. So will Cuba fall? Will China and Russia are getting a lot of their oil from Iran? They're not getting their oil. How's it going to affect the Russia-Ukraine war? Will it actually bring an end to that conflict? There's so many things going on behind the scenes
Right.
that it is.
It's hard to pinpoint what's going on. It's so
It
like,
is.
I just recanted this whole almost a conspiracy theory that a lot of people online are like, why is Trump talking about this? It must be because he's in the Epstein files, but who knows? Maybe it's oil related because not a lot of people know this, but the majority or a big substantial part of Iranian oil goes to Russia and China. It doesn't go to us. So if we want to strategically limit the oil that goes to our largest foes
Right.
that may be supporting Venezuela, Cuba, and all these other countries,
Yeah.
who do we hit? We hit Iran. So yeah, there's so many possible scenarios that we can run through our heads and be like, this is the reason Trump did this. And
Not to mention the stated ones from the White House
Right,
about
which
the
have-
nuclear war.
there have been a lot of
and
reasons even
the
from the White
humanitarian
House, yeah.
issues.
Yeah. Well, and the third interview in that set, he was talking about the fact that war is spreading, right? Like he was actually like that's one of the reasons why he wasn't too in favor of it. We always worry about the idea of a world war, and all these things we're talking about here. Should this last any length of time, we don't really know where all that'll go, and we certainly don't want to see a war broadening
No.
beyond where it is.
No,
Right?
thank you.
So I understand that sentiment. Wow, a lot of stuff to talk about there. Let's go to the next clip and see what we've got there.
And do you think the president should have needed approval from Congress before launching the attack?
The president of the United States of America does not need any approval but his own. He knows what he's doing, and we need to trust in that.
Okay, well, thank you. And do you think the president should have needed approval from Congress before launching the attack?
It's like, there's no more debate. I think he would have been better had he got approval, but I think it was within his power of decision to be able to make the one he made.
Okay, thanks you. And do you think the president should have needed approval from Congress before launching the attack?
Yes, definitely, because this is a decision that's affecting everybody, not just him.
Okay.
Okay. And it is. It's affecting everybody. That's true.
You observe.
What's the history of that? Are you guys aware of past conflicts? Like, did the president always get approval from Congress?
Yeah, I mean, things have definitely changed. And a lot has to do with 9/11. That was a big turning point. I'm not aware of all of the history of it, but American hearts were sore after 9/11, especially given the stuff that the different occurrences that happened in the Middle East to enable that from happening. Americans, understandably so, were concerned and they never wanted something like that to happen again. So George Bush and the Iraq War, right? There were, I know George Bush made use of executive orders. I know Obama made heavy use of executive orders. I'm sure it was used before then, but I don't think to the extent in which it had like effects on proxy wars, basically. So I think we've definitely seen an increase from the 2000s on.
Yeah. So one of the things that that doesn't come up in any of this conversation, but maybe plays into why the president wouldn't go to Congress, is there have been, over the course of his first administration, and certainly even beyond that, a lot of leaks. Right? Things would come out as leaks. They're not supposed to be out, but all of a sudden the media knows everything. If he goes to Congress and says, "Hey, we want to get your approval to attack Iran," does that get in the media before it ever happens? Do they have any surprise when they get there? I think that's one of the things that I haven't heard anybody in the press really even talk about, is the impact of leaks on that. And so when we have people in the government who violate confidentiality or classified briefings or whatever, it also leads to this.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I get that point, and I understand the element of surprise is probably the most powerful weapon that any nation like the US can have in their arsenal, so to speak. But also maybe the reason that we have checks and balances and we have Congress and we have the judicial branch and executive branch, maybe the reason that it exists is so that we can more diligently declare war in a way that's more prudent. Maybe the reason that we have this system is to avoid rash wars, to not just give every president who thinks we've got a little bit of an upper hand right now, and if we surprise them right now, it'll be 5% better. Maybe the reason we have checks and balances is to prevent a president from exerting that type of power. And yes, maybe if we go for Congress and they know what's about to come, maybe they'll be able to prepare. Maybe they'll put 5 of their drones, in a cave instead of it being out there. But maybe, that's not such a bad thing. Maybe that's the way our government is, the way it is,
Yeah.
That's one of the principles of just war theory, depending on which source you're going to. One of the principles can be that it's declared by a legitimate government, that the war is actually started in the proper way.
that's right.
And so I think that is important to consider when we're talking about the just cause of a war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we need to look into the future here. I mean, war has just changed so much. Like, I'm sure when they originally came up with the War Powers Act, like, you had to put your troops on ships and get them there, and
Right.
like we didn't have air forces, we didn't have space forces. So the development of how quickly we can annihilate the enemy is one way to think about it, is changed a lot. And so I think there was a 60-day window in some previous legislation that lets the president take actions for certain reasons. I don't know for sure that this conflict fits into the reasons there. I will leave that to people who've studied that. But But it does raise the question of whether our current policies, laws, all of that really fit the abilities and the technology. And maybe, I mean, supposedly they briefed the group of 8, which was 4 congressmen from each party, but apparently they can't say anything because it's classified and they're not allowed to release it. So when one party agrees and the other party totally doesn't in the group of 8, you haven't gotten approval.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, it's definitely a difficult situation. What about the first young lady that was on that last clip though, who just wanted to give the president, carte blanche?
Well,
I mean, we could surprise everyone if that was the case. I mean, Congress, right? That everyone says Congress doesn't do anything; they're too slow. I don't know. Maybe she's really feeling that, and we just have
Maybe.
a strong leader.
Yeah, well,
strike any country.
maybe Congress is the thing he's afraid of next. But anyway, okay, let's go ahead and play another set of clips here. We got some other reactions.
Yeah, I think Congress should have been privy to this decision, and I think it's pretty clearly delineated in the Constitution that only Congress has the right to declare war, and I think there needs to be more accountability to our representatives.
Whether that's the right thing or not, I honestly don't know. There was a lot of terrible things happening in Iran, and I'm glad that we're at least doing something. Right, to this extent, I don't agree with that. And maybe Congress approval could have meant that we had a more meticulous and well thought out attack of Iran.
No, and I feel like there's an article in the Constitution, Article 2, I believe, that states that he is the commander-in-chief and can make these strategic attacks as he deems fit. He gets briefings from the military. I don't think he just would have done it out of thin air, and he wasn't the first president to do something like this.
Okay.
Commander-in-chief.
Commander-in-chief.
That's an interesting interpretation of Article 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Go ahead and say more about that.
Well, that part of Article 2 that talks about the president, launching strikes or offensives or whatever terminology it used. I don't have it memorized, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure that involves when there is a war already ongoing. So the president assumes the role of commander-in-chief of the army once there is a declared war, from Congress.
Right.
So it doesn't address the
Okay.
idea of whether or
That's
not
right.
the president can declare war at all.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. Very good. What about the second person in that set of interviews? He was, understanding that there's some really bad things going on in Iran. I guess we needed to do something about it. Sounded like he might have been okay with it if there had been that congressional process of approval. Do you think, is that common? Like, do you think that's kind of what the younger generation is really would narrow down to? Do you think if Congress had given approval, more people would be behind this?
I feel like a lot of young people, and this is just speaking from people I talk to, were generally fine with the war, but would have really loved it if he got congressional approval. So like they were fine with it, but it would have been most ideal. And so it seems like that's what that guy was saying, was that we could have been more meticulous. There could have been a little bit better of a plan, but something needed to be done. So it's good something's getting done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think if this war turns south and we get so much more involved and, if things kind of start falling apart, I think the people that say that they're okay with it, and I think that's somewhat motivated by the fact that it's going pretty good right now as far as what we're hearing, those people will easily turn and say, no, this is a bad war, and he should have gotten Congress's approval.
Yeah.
Because it's easier for them to make that little strategic shift because they already said he needed to get approval. I would have liked it better. Versus someone that says, I don't really care about the approval and it's a great war, right? It's a little bit harder to make that pivot.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but we'll see how the war develops and how people's opinions change as they always do during war.
All right. Well, we've got one more set of clips. These are answering the question, would you support President Trump sending ground troops into Iran? So let's see what these say.
Not unless there is congressional consent and approval.
Heck nah. One of the main reasons why he attacked Iran was actually Marco Rubio said this yesterday or 2 days ago in a press conference. He said the reason why we attacked Iran is because Israel was going to attack first. And we could mitigate our losses by attacking before Israel did. We were kind of forced into it ourselves. The last thing I want is American troops to die for another country's behalf. So definitely do not send ground troops.
I do support my president. I support the commander-in-chief. I know he knows things that we don't know. Do I want a war? No, knowing that he's doing what needs to be done. I support his decisions.
So Zechariah, let me ask you, ground troops, like what do you think about these people's comments?
I think the second guy kind of, I guess, brought up a good point. You know what I mean? And again, sending ground troops, that's gonna get violent. You know what I mean? So if it's not, I just hope it's not needed. I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all hope it's not needed. Ground troops, I don't know. Hope, what do you think?
I would definitely be against it. Particularly referencing what that first guy said, especially not without congressional approval in that case. So if we're talking about, okay, the war started, he didn't get congressional approval, but if he's going to actually send our troops out in harm's way, I think it would be much more important that he has congressional approval and kind of the country's approval on the war before he does that and sends people in harm's way.
All right. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the second guy kind of brought up the point of the interests of our allies, which obviously Israel is a huge ally. And there's been a lot of conversation among the younger generation about what exactly the purpose and like what does that ally look like? Or excuse me, that alliance. So I think that's one of the points of some of the things these people were saying is sending our troops to die for another country's interests can be a little bit dismaying sometimes.
Okay.
So that's just a bigger topic to discuss,
So
really. But
if this is just question from me, so this is separate. If you are the world's superpower and have the ability to stop evil, do you have a responsibility to use it, or is it just for your country?
well, I think I would say you do have a responsibility to stop evil, but part of the problem is that it seems sometimes that big countries selectively choose what evil to stop. Because, for example, I mean, Africa, there are a bunch of countries there. There's slaughter happening, there's genocide happening. There are countries where Christians are being martyred. So there's a lot of issues that are happening all over the world that we could constantly be at war with. We could be sending our troops to every single country across the world. So sometimes that's not exactly the question. Like the
Okay.
deeper motive, in my opinion.
Sure.
People have deeper motives sometimes. So
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like the evil that we care about is the evil that happens to people who can help us. So like those alliances
Mhm,
or
yeah.
even with the Russia-China conflicts, it's like those people could rise up and become a threat. So it's kind of less preventive war mentality. Whereas we don't really seem to get much gain from helping the tribes in Africa who are suffering.
Yeah, which is not necessarily negative to
Yeah.
be fighting, excuse me, against an evil that is going to directly impact our citizens, because obviously we have a duty to protect our country and our citizens. But I think that when countries, and especially the United States, presents themselves as the savior of the world as their only motive, that is not the full truth. So I think that's just something to consider in this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the White House is saying, oh, we're doing this because of the moral harms going on in that country.
Yeah, I think it's better to just be honest and say that it is a kind of America first idea, that they are trying to go to war to either get oil or protect United States citizens in the future, or protect alliances that could have effects in the future.
Yeah, I think that second guy that was interviewed, he mentioned what Marco Rubio had said at some conference, at some press conference, where Israel was going to attack, and if Israel attacked, it would hurt American troops, so we had to attack first. And it's kind of interesting that has been picked out. I heard it. I heard a whole conversation on CNN, I think, where that's all they focused on, and I'm like, there are 17 different reasons why people have stated we go to war. You picked that one because obviously it's kind of the most outside the box. There's a lot of reasons that have been given.
Yeah.
But certainly, the reasons that we get involved may not even, none of them may be stated.
Right.
Because I kind of think the reason why Iran's important is because of how it sponsors terror in other places. That's really what the U.S. wants to stop, but they don't want to go against a country with nuclear weapons if they can stop something else that's supplying it. So I think there's some stuff in the background. And, frankly, even though they seem a little laughable, a couple of the people that we've had, they made comments were kind of like, whatever the president wants, I trust him. He knows more. I think there is an element of there's stuff that he knows that he can't share. And he can't say it because it would hurt, it would mess up diplomacy
Right.
with a nuclear power somewhere else, you know? And so it is difficult. It's so difficult to really know the full picture. Our time is up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you all. This has been a great conversation. Thank you, Zachariah, for joining us. And as we bring this podcast to a close, we just thank you for prioritizing faith and truth, and for letting us help serve you with just some new information and more information about what's going on in the world. And this has been a production of the Journalism and Communication Studies Department at Regent University. Follow us with the links below, give us a like, and join us next week. We'll provide another podcast, hopefully as stimulating. God bless.